Did you
I get,
walk away from all the PNC stuff?
yeah, the whole thing, man. Just gave it
Dude.
back.
Hey everyone, welcome to the BLIP podcast, where we help agents build successful agencies. Thanks for joining me today. I hope this will be a good one. I think it will. I'm excited about it. And today I have Andrew Calloway with me. Andrew owns Pin Oak, the Pin Oak Agency in Maryville, Illinois. And one of the reasons why I'm really excited about this is Andrew's first month of transitioning from being a captive agent to being owning an independent agency. And so we're going to kind of get to know him today, find out where he's at right now, and then we're going to track his progress and stay with him and go over the struggles and the wins and losses over this whole first year of his journey. So anyway, I'm really excited about it. Andrew, thanks for joining me today.
Hey, thanks, Josh. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Why don't you give us just kind of like a brief background of how you got into insurance and what got you to wanting to move from the captive side to the independent side?
Yeah, so just to give a brief background, I'm 40 years old. Worked for probably 15 years, like out of college and everything in the corporate world. So did a lot of cool things. Worked in corporate America, and probably for the last decade or so, I've known that I wanted to own my own business. I didn't know what, right? I've dabbled in some things. I built some spec homes where I'm from. Um, kind of looked at different opportunities in terms of like owning a business. But about 5 years ago, one of the large captive insurance companies, State Farm, they had a recruiter that reached out to me and kind of started the process. And I actually started with them as a scratch agent 4 years ago. 3.5 years ago. January 1st of 2016 was my first day. Went through their entire training. Honestly, like it was an easy transition because the recruitment process was, pretty hard, and they kind of they make it easy for you to get started. I probably wouldn't have started a scratch insurance agency and left my job if not for the fact that they held my hand
Right.
and did that. It was going great. Things were good. um I won't say that it was terrible, but at the same time, um some of the captives from time to time, they go through ups and downs, right, and they become more competitive and less competitive. And
Yep.
I just felt like under the captive agency model, we were only addressing like, maybe 20% of the market, maybe 15% of the market from a rate and a eligibility standpoint. And then also, your ability to do commercial insurance, things like that. So for the past, I don't know, year or so, I've been thinking about, making a switch, right? And there were some issues also, like just in terms of like, starting scratch as a captive is pretty difficult. It's not an easy
Yeah.
thing. Um, so I kind of made the decision back around January 1st that I was going to more than likely, if things didn't, you know, change dramatically. Um, that I was going to make a switch and kind of be on my own island and try to do this on my own and be able to, you know, instead of meeting 20% of the market, hopefully be able to address 80% of the market that was out there,
Yep.
right, and help all people in my community and maybe in the state of Illinois. So we're located um, in Southern Illinois, right outside of St. Louis. So if you think about Illinois, you get Chicago at the top, biggest city, but the state's pretty big, and we're down at the tip on the other end near St. Louis. So this is our first month, and there's a lot of things we don't know, and
Yeah.
but it's exciting, and it's at least initially, right, it's going well, but
Yep.
we're really working to get the wind under the sails per se,
Yeah.
right, and get things taken off.
Sweet. Well, you said something that I hear a lot, and it's been my own personal experience and my business partner's experience where um, people who people who start on the captive side, I feel like there's this 3 year not window, but like after 3 years, start to think like, is this really what I want to do? Do I want to stay with this company for, the rest of my time in the insurance industry? And so I feel like that 3 to 4 year window right there, I hear so many agents that start as a captive. That's when they make the move to being an independent agent. And I don't know why. I mean, maybe there's, some sort of mental shift after 3 years. You have enough experience. You've, you know, actually know the company well enough now to make that decision. I don't know.
Yeah, I think, for me, I can only speak from my personal experience, but I've talked to a lot of folks who are in the same kind of um, time frame and same kind of situation. So there's kind of a couple factors, right? Is one is when you first start out, you don't know, you don't know, about how successful you're going to be or the industry,
Right.
right? But as you kind of move through it, right? If you want more flexibility, and you want to grow faster and you want to do more, right? I think the captive world, even though most of these companies say that you're an independent contractor,
Yeah.
there's a lot of control that they exert over you in terms of how you can conduct your business, how fast you can grow.
Right.
Obviously, if you only have one choice, right, you're to a large extent at the mercy of their underwriting process and the cycles in that, right? So depending on, you know, whether it's Farmers or Allstate or State Farm, right? I think there's periods where, you know, they might retrench, right? And if you want to grow and you need to grow your business, in the end of the day, you need to make a paycheck, right? There's a financial aspect to it, right? And then the other
Yeah.
aspect, I think, is the freedom, right? The ability to do things today in the way that people contract business, right? There's a lot of things that you're able to do with social media and digital
Yeah.
marketing and things like that that some of these companies I think kind of shy away from just because they're big 800-pound gorillas
Yep.
and they move slowly. And in the business world that we live in, you know, some organizations are fearful to allow, all their people to do things because, you know, whether we want to admit it or not, right? If you have an organization of 15 or 20,000 people, it's hard to trust that everyone's going to do everything with the utmost integrity. So they
Totally.
put rules in place to protect the mothership, right? And
Yep.
sometimes that doesn't allow people to do things that, they know they're going to do them right. They know they're always going to have, the best interests of their policyholders and
Yep.
the community, but you can't do some things that otherwise you'd want to do. So at the end of the day, I just decided, I said, hey, for me, and the amount of flexibility I want to have and the amount of growth I want to see, I think the independent world is probably the best fit. And then at the end of the day, too, with the independent world, you own 100% of what you produce, right? So if you kill
Yeah.
it, it's yours and you can decide to leave and sell it. You can keep it. You can pass it on to your family. You can have whatever succession plan you want. And a lot of these captive agencies, captive companies, they really limit your flexibility to do that. So I guess I knew that at the outset, but um, I didn't understand the full extent of it, right?
Yeah.
And as I got into it, that kind of became more apparent. So it was a good
Yeah.
shift for me.
I know when I made that jump about, gosh, 10 years ago, social media was not what it is today. I mean, I think MySpace was still around and Facebook was fairly new. Um, and so the the limitations on what we could do wasn't a huge factor in my decision, but what was the main factor was, as usually when you're a captive agent, you a lot of them are 1 or 2 person shops. And so that person is responsible for basically making the phone ring, usually going out, getting business, whatever. And what I was just finding is, you work so hard to get those opportunities. And then, regardless of what anybody says, it is not, I mean, people will buy on price, right? I say
Correct.
sell on price, keep them with service, build that relationship after you get them in the door. But if you're coming back 25 to 50% higher than what they're paying, I'm sorry, you're just not going to get that client. And so, like you were saying, you might win 20% of those or 25% of the opportunities you get, but you're missing out on all these other people that you worked so hard to get in front of. And so that was the driving factor for me is I just wanted more options, more to be able to capture more of the market, more of those opportunities that we had. So
Yeah, that's
um,
right. Yep.
yeah. Um, so this is your first month. I'd love to hear about kind of what your expectation was starting off. Like, ha, also, can you give us a brief overview of like what does the agency look like right now? What's the makeup? Is it just you? Do you have any staff? Do you guys have a physical office, virtual office? What does that look like?
Yeah. So right now, we've retained our physical office location.
Okay.
I own the building, so we have a nice office suite. And then I have one employee right now. At
Okay.
any given time, at one point, I was up to four full-time employees, but it
Yep.
just didn't make sense with the amount of business we were writing and the competitiveness to maintain those employees. So some of those folks left, and I have one gal that's been with me. Her name's Gracie.
Mhm.
She's bilingual. She's been with me for 3 years. She is phenomenal, right? She's kind of the backbone of what I do. She's great enough that if she doesn't know the answer, she knows to ask, right? She knows the
Yeah.
answer she doesn't know, right? So that's an attribute that a lot of people don't have, right? That's something that's good to find. And then um, we just the two of us. We're running with just the two of us right now.
I mean,
And
that's even having another person there, like most people who start independent agencies start with just themselves. So, you've already feel like got a leg up there.
yeah, we had about 700 households that we worked
Mhm.
with when we were with the captive. The cool thing is that since we've announced that we're leaving and people have gotten letters and things, we've had probably, I would say, close to 200 now of those households reach out directly to
Wow.
us and say, "Hey, like, what's going on?" So we kind of explain to them, like, "Hey, you've been assigned to a new person. You should have gotten a letter.
Yeah.
If you want somebody closer to your home, more than happy to explain to you how to do that. Or, the third thing is if you ask us, we'd be more than happy to continue to work with you. And of those 200 people that reached out, I would say probably 150 or so are like, yeah, for sure. Like, as soon as you're
Yeah.
ready, like, I want to continue to work with you guys. We love your level of service. We love
Nice.
everything about you. So that's exciting that we've gotten so much support from they're not our policyholders, but people that we've
They will
worked with
be.
in the past.
Yeah.
I got to be careful how I say that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the reality is that if you're thinking about making a switch, right, and the people that you work with like you, right, and you give them a high level of service and you care about them, people don't just forget about that, right? They
Right.
they want to work with people. They want the good price, right, like you said, but they want to know that the people that are helping them, care about them and their families. And I think that that's shown that, the folks who we're working with, care, they think we care. Right.
Yeah.
So that's been
So
exciting.
where are you with where are you at, I guess, with your contractually with the captive you came from? Like, are you able to just go after that business? Is there a non-solicitation? Like, if they contact you, you can write it. How's that work?
Yeah. So in my contract, I had a non-solicitation for 1 year. So, we're not allowed via the contract, right, to reach out at all to folks. So the idea of, we don't have any lists or any,
Right.
we weren't able to keep any of the records, right?
Right.
But
Right.
at the same time, we kept the same phone number. So the folks were used to calling our office and they know our number. A lot of times we had them set up, on our social media accounts. So
Nice.
they've reached out and gotten a hold of us. So there really hasn't been, we couldn't do it contractually, but there hasn't been any need to. So we don't have a non-compete, right? That would be pretty detrimental and pretty
Yeah.
devastating, right? If you
Right.
couldn't work in insurance.
For
But yeah, it's
sure.
just a non-solicit, right? So we're not allowed to reach out directly to those people and say, hey, remember me,
Yeah.
give me a
Yeah.
call. That would be kind of an awkward conversation anyway.
For
It probably
sure.
would.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they're not calling you, then you probably wouldn't want to do it,
Yeah.
nevertheless. But that's kind of how it works. And
Nice.
we've honored that, that contractual obligation.
So, what was your expectation on what this first month was going to look like?
Yeah, so I guess, you don't know what you don't know, right? So
Yeah.
I kind of thought, because I did a lot of pre-planning, right? And there's some things that I knew, there's a lot of things you got to wait on, right? So, for me, I had a corporate entity and I had my insurance licenses already set up, right? And I couldn't really do anything with those until I actually severed ties with the captive agency, the captive, insurance provider. So my last day was June 30th at midnight, right? So I had it set up with the Department of Insurance in Illinois and Missouri that on the first, right, my agency name would change, my corporate entity name would change, and then I would call them and actually disconnect and reapply my licenses, and get them set up. So until you do that, you really can't get any appointments set up with any of the
Yeah.
independent carriers.
Right.
Um, so I kind of thought that I would be up and running sooner. The other thing is you have to get one thing that I never had to worry about when I first started with the captive was getting like LexisNexis set up.
Uh huh.
So we are in that process right now. Um, we're 15. Well, today's the 16th, right? 17th. So we're 17 days in, and I just talked to LexisNexis yesterday, and they said it's probably going to be another 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So reality is we've gotten the carrier approvals, so we're approved, but we're not set up yet to be able to write business. So that's probably for people looking to do this. If you just want to be realistic, it's probably a 30-day process to get that set up. Maybe if you want to be really conservative, 45 days.
Yeah.
Because Nexus, you got to get set up with your departments of insurance. You got to get your corporate entity changed over or set up. Doing that differently, I probably would have just set up a separate one, separate corporate entity. But I wanted to keep the same like FEIN number and all that stuff. So I just switched it all.
Yeah.
But we're going to get there. It's just going to take a little bit longer than I thought. Now we can write some business through the cluster group that I'm using through their back office, but it's going to be more ideal when we're on our direct codes and we can write everything ourselves and
Yeah.
do all that. But there's a lot that we don't know.
What
Figuring it
So yeah, and so you get these hiccups, right? Along for it's like anything, right? Like when you start a new project, start a new whatever marketing campaign, like there's so much that you just don't really know, and you don't know how it's going to pan out. And so that's why I love this. I love this idea having you on, following your journey the first year to give people like an inside look. Because I mean, people who've been doing it for a while, I don't even remember the struggles that we faced, that first month and how difficult it was and all that kind of stuff. So, um, what? Let's talk some numbers. What was your expectation? Like, you thought probably that it was you're gonna be able to write business directly a lot faster.
out.
And so, did you have a certain amount of households you want to get policies premium this first month, or are you just running and trying to get it done?
Yeah, I mean, well, we had thought, right, that realistically we were going to write about $100,000 in annualized premium on
Okay.
PNC
The
first
first
month.
month? Uh-huh.
Yeah, we thought that would be pretty easy. But because we don't have these carrier relationships yet, that's just not going to happen. So
Yeah.
that's going to get pushed back until August. But what we're
Okay.
doing right now is we have our rater set up. So we are I just this kind of epiphany just hit me in the last few days. So one thing you can do is you can start setting the folks up in the rater, right?
Oh,
And you can
yeah.
get their information in there so that when you have the carrier appointments, then you can just hit the button and quote them, right? You don't need to
Yep.
call them back and gather any more information or load the information. So my team member, I've told her, hey, just make sure you're doing 2 to 3 of those preloads, right? We're calling them every day, right? Because
Yeah.
she's got quite a few people that are like, hey, I want to quote and I want to come with you. So I said, hey, if you do 2 or 3 and it takes us another 14 days, then by the time that we get these appointments set up, you're going to have 30 quotes ready to go. And it's just a matter of going in, hitting the button, choosing, right, calling them back, getting the coverage bound. So that's what we're doing right now. Our monthly premium in the old world before we left was about the best month we ever had was probably about 50,000 in premium.
Okay.
I would say maybe a little bit north of that. And then we probably did between 25 and 30,000 every month of new PNC personal lines premium.
Hmm.
So, I think we're going to have this bulbous, right? In the first few months of people, coming back and saying, hey, we want to work with you. And then
Right.
once we get through that, um, you know, our goal is to do, double what we did before. I mean, with two
Uh-huh.
people.
Nice.
Um, if we can up our closing ratio, I don't think that will be an issue, but hopefully I'm wrong on the downward side, not
Yeah.
the upward side, but we'll see.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't know what you don't know. But I think it should be at least initial indications are we should be pretty good in terms of price and
Yeah.
coverage availability and things like that.
I know
So
one thing uh, that we did not account for when we started was, um, so often we would be quoting people that were our prior clients, and the rate would literally be half of what they were paying. And so what a normal account for us would have been like, say, 3,000 in premium, now it's like 1,500. I'm talking like
right.
maxed out everything, right? Umbrella, home, like 2,500, whatever. Um, and so it was one, it was great. It was really easy for us to close more new business, but we were, making way less, or taking, I guess our premium was way less. But your commissions are probably going to be considerably higher too, right?
Yeah, so the commissions are gonna be 50% higher, on
Yes.
average,
Oh,
right?
amazing.
Sometimes more, sometimes less. So, like, on the personal lines PNC, um, it should be significantly better on what we get paid. Now, there's gonna be some people who are like that are half, right, the
Yeah.
premium on an annual basis, and I think there's also gonna be some people who were in the optimum position, right? So maybe
Yeah.
it's about the same, and then I would tend to think that once we get into this, we're gonna find some people that were like, "Hey, look, if you wanna come with us, that's great, but, we looked at all of our carrier relationships, for some reason, you are in the best spot today,
Yeah.
so we just suggest you stay where you're at unless you really want to, come with us. You got pretty good coverage. The only downside is you're not working with us, and then we'll
Yeah.
check with back with you in a year. Something
Yeah.
changes, and that's going to happen. But I think
Totally.
that'll be less than I think that probably like 25%. That's my estimate, but we'll know here in a couple months. Hope
Yeah.
it's not 60%, right?
Yeah. What what ways, aside from your past clients reaching out to you, do you have any, I guess, methods of marketing that you weren't really doing before that you're going to try to focus on now to drive new business?
Yeah, so I mean, we have, of course, the traditional methods, right?
Sure.
Referrals, word of mouth, referral partners, right? Like mortgage lenders and real estate agents that we know in the community who work with us. So we're gonna once we're fully up and operational, right? We're gonna continue to develop those relationships and leverage those. But one of the ways which is kind of exciting for me is that the idea of using like YouTube ads, Facebook ads, things like that, and the ability to actually capture the information that you need to call the person back and do the quote was really limited for us in the
Yeah.
captive world. So when I first started, I spent a lot of time and energy on trying to learn how to be kind of a marketer
Uh-huh.
because to a certain extent, an insurance agency is about marketing yourself, right? And
Yep.
how much time you spend as a marketer versus how much time you spend as a risk manager, right, is dependent on the agent and the staffing and all that. But the more time you can bring people into the funnel, the better your sales are going to be, right? So we're going to try, we're going to attempt, right, to leverage social and some of the digital strategies to bring in clients and I feel like I've spent an inordinate amount of time on learning this stuff but not executing on it. So now it just becomes, once we kind of get live, being able to execute some of the things that I think I know how they work,
Yeah.
but it's time to see, do they actually work in practice, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I hope that I'm pleasantly surprised that what I thought actually comes to fruition. I mean, I think there's a lot of folks who've built a pretty nice business using this digital realm, and we just want to kind of like not make that all of our business, but we like to play in that area and make that an important part of our sales funnel.
Yeah. So you're talking social media, Facebook, YouTube, that kind of stuff.
Yes, social, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. I don't know much about it, so not so
Yeah.
much right now. And then SEO as well.
Yeah.
Trying to be
Yeah.
at the top of the Google. But there's some resources out there that can, you know, that I found that can help you learn how to run those advertising, those types of advertising, and how to market that, and the kind of message to get out there, and the right scripting and everything. So we're going to try to leverage that and use that, and hopefully, knock on wood, people like to see us,
Oh
um,
yeah.
and we can really hit a home run there. The other nice thing is that um, we are a bilingual agency,
Yeah.
so I think, right, because of that, we might be able to do some like YouTube ads in Spanish, and I think that will really, my intuition is that's really going to work out, right? Just from
Yeah.
some things we've done in Spanish in the captive world, we got
Mhm.
such an overwhelming response without any way to capture any data, that I think we're going to really have some success there. But we'll know in the next 30 to 45 days how that pans out.
Nice.
I'll be able to talk about it on the next call.
Yeah. Well, man,
Yeah.
dude, I'm looking forward to it. I'm super pumped for you. Congratulations. This is a big step.
It is, man. It's for anybody thinking about doing it. I would say that I put in about probably 6 to 8 months of pre-work. I talked to a lot of different platforms and a lot of different people that had made the switch. So, make sure you just reach out to people and try to figure out as much as you can ahead of time, because
Yeah.
honestly, even if you do that, you're still going to feel like you're drinking from a fire hose and you can't
Yeah.
catch your air, but you're going to feel a lot better that kind of what's going on. Um,
Yeah.
and so that pre-work does help.
Yeah. Nice, man. Well, I will let you get back to it. But again, thank you so much, Andrew from Pin Oak. Um, how can people find you if they have questions or want to like your Facebook page so they can kind of see what you guys are doing?
Yeah, so on Facebook, it's Pinhook Agency. I think if you just put that into Facebook, you'll find that. Andrew Calloway on Facebook. So if anybody wants to send me a personal message, feel free to send me a friend request and just like reach out. And then like, I can't answer every question just because I have a business to run, but I'm happy to chat with anyone. And then I would say probably just kind of tune into these podcasts, because
Yeah.
in 2 or 3 months you're going to know what works and what doesn't work. So this is kind of a good case study on what you should do and maybe what you shouldn't do. So
Yeah, and this
um,
is a great, time for me to say the check-ins and when I normally will post a video to Facebook and post links and that kind of stuff. For the check-ins, if you are interested in following Andrew's journey, make sure you subscribe to either the YouTube channel or one of our iTunes outlets. Or, you can also subscribe to get an email notification when a new post is out. I'm not going to push these out the same way, the check-ins the same way that I have done all the other podcasts. I really, um, you know, the show format is once a week, and these are going to be in addition to the other stuff we're doing. So subscribe, and I'll push that out on Facebook to tell you, like, you got to subscribe to get the stuff. We're going to be doing some other stuff too. That's going to be kind of cool. That's only for people who have subscribed. So I know I'm super excited about following Andrew's journey. And I know if you've gotten to this point in the show, you probably are too. And so anyway, make sure you subscribe. And if you know somebody who is thinking of making that jump, share this video, this post, podcast with them so they can follow along too. Because I'm super pumped, man. I'm so glad I met you in Kentucky. I met Andrew in Kentucky. How long ago was that? 3
It
months
was about
ago?
two or
Two.
3 months ago. We went to a seminar in Lexington,
Yeah.
and I actually wanted to go. It was a free seminar put on by Agency Evolve, right?
Agency Evolve hosted it kind of, and it was with Nick Ayers talking about YouTube.
Yes,
Yeah.
talking about YouTube ads, and I actually got up at like 2:30 a.m. and drove to Lexington. It's about a 5 hour drive, so I was pretty tired. But you sat in front of me, and we started
Yeah.
chatting about your blog and or vlog, and yeah, I'm super pumped because I've gotten. I'll be honest with you, I've gotten probably 50 to 100 private messages and phone calls from people saying, "Hey, would you talk to me?" And for most people, I'm like, you got to really put a lot of thought into whether you want to do this or not. But
Yeah.
if you do, right, like, I'm happy to chat and tell you how. Maybe wait a couple months and see how it turns out for me, right? But if you subscribe to this, you kind of see how it's going. So
Yeah.
this is good for a lot of. I think a lot of people will find value in this, and
Awesome.
it'll hold me accountable too.
Yeah, right? And this
Hmm.
is a great so one of the things I think, man, I feel like I tried to end this like 5 minutes ago, but I keep going.
Right, right,
So,
right.
one of the things that I think is, easy to lose sight of, especially right when you're getting started, is the numbers on everything, How many quotes are you doing? What's the close ratio? What's the premium in force? Because you're just in it and just buried in all the stuff that you're doing. And so, I would love to have those numbers for everyone who listens. So that's a challenge for you if you're not already trying to keep that information, because it's amazing information to have, and then you tweak something and see how it changes and all that kind of stuff. So,
Right. No, we will definitely have that as soon as we get, you know, a more robust
oh
quoting
yeah,
platform,
yeah,
and that'll be something that we can check in on and talk about. So,
nice, man. I'm super excited. Thanks, Andrew, for joining me. Everyone, thanks
thanks,
for
guys.
listening. Yeah, we'll see you. Andrew and I will see you in about a month. Take care.